I never thought that day would change my life forever. It was March 15th, 2023, and everything seemed normal. I had just left an appointment and was driving calmly, listening to a worship song on the radio. But in an instant, everything changed. A speeding car ran a red light and violently collided with mine. The impact was so strong that I had no time to react. I remember the intense pain and then silence. The doctor said my heart stopped for 15 minutes. 15 minutes in which, according to human logic, I was dead. But the truth is, I was more alive than ever. I saw myself outside my body, watching everything from above. I saw the paramedics trying to revive me, heard their anxious voices, saw the desperation on their faces. But at the same time, I felt an indescribable peace. Suddenly, I was enveloped by a light so bright that human words cannot describe it. And it was there, at that moment, that I realized I was not alone. In front of me was Jesus. He was not like in the paintings or the descriptions I had heard all my life. He was majestic. His presence radiated a love and authority I had never experienced before. He looked at me, and without saying a single word, I knew my life would never be the same again. Jesus approached, and in that instant, everything around me transformed. There was no more pain, fear, or doubt. I felt an absolute certainty that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Then, he began to show me things I could never have imagined. It was as if I were being taken through different moments in history, seeing what had previously been hidden. That was when he revealed something that would change not only my life, but also how many see faith and truth. He told me that I had been chosen to receive and share a revelation about the true spiritual heritage of Black people, something that had been distorted and erased over the centuries. I saw scenes from ancient times, vivid images of kings, priests, and African sages who knew God deeply, long before colonization and attempts to erase their culture. I saw civilizations that thrived not only materially but spiritually. Jesus showed me how the so-called curse of Ham had been completely misinterpreted. He explained that the curse was never about race or skin color, but only about Canaan. I saw how this distortion was used to justify oppression and how this lie must be undone. And in that moment, I understood that this was my mission, to tell the world the truth that had been revealed to me. The visions continued, and Jesus took me to a time of intense suffering. Slavery. I saw men and women torn from their lands, chained, treated as merchandise. But amidst all the horror, I saw something that deeply marked me. Their faith remained unshaken. They prayed, sang, and found strength in God, even when everything was taken from them. Jesus made me understand that this suffering was not in vain. He showed me that just as he carried the cross for humanity's redemption, Black people carried a cross that would become a testimony and spiritual strength. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Matthew 5:4. He told me. Jesus then showed me the fundamental role of the Black church in preserving faith. He took me to worship services where voices lifted praises so deep they echoed like living prayers. I saw preachers speaking with authority, brothers and sisters finding refuge in communion. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in the spirit and in truth. John 4:24. Jesus reminded me, what many call exaggeration or emotion was actually a pure and legitimate form of worship. The church was not just a place of worship. It was a refuge, a safe harbor where the chains of the world could not imprison the soul. Then, Jesus revealed something even deeper. The suffering of Black people was not just a consequence of human wickedness, but a spiritual journey that reflected his own walk on earth. If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. John 15:18. Rejection, pain, and struggle had forged an unbreakable faith, a spiritual strength capable of inspiring generations. I saw people who, despite everything, continued to love, forgive, and extend a hand to others. The one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Matthew 24:13. What the world saw as weakness, God saw as power. Finally, Jesus showed me a future that filled my heart with hope. I saw Black people rising not as victims, but as spiritual leaders, as guides for a world that had lost its connection with God. The last will be first. Matthew 20:16. He told me, the faith, resilience, and wisdom that had endured centuries of oppression would now be beacons for all peoples. Jesus looked at me with eyes of tenderness and said, "Go back and tell the world what you have seen. The time of truth has come." And then I felt my spirit being pulled back, and I woke up in the hospital, surrounded by astonished doctors. I had returned, but I was no longer the same. Since that day, my mission has been clear. I cannot remain silent. I cannot let this revelation be lost. God brought me back to tell the world that there is a greater purpose for every struggle, that there is a truth that must be known. I know that many will doubt. Others will try to silence this message, but it does not matter. For we cannot do anything against the truth, but only for the truth. 2 Corinthians 13:8. My life belongs to Him, and as long as I have breath, I will share this truth. And so I go forward, unafraid, with faith, carrying this message to every heart willing to listen. Because I know this is not just my story, but the story of a people called to something far greater.